People often talk about breaking glass ceilings, but what happens when the room itself was never built for you? Jasmine Carter walked into an exclusive summit and immediately felt invisible, until one pivotal moment compelled everyone to acknowledge her presence. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments if you've ever felt like you didn't belong somewhere, only to prove everyone wrong. The moment Jasmine stepped into the grand ballroom at the Preston Executive Summit, she felt it. The brief lull in conversation, the subtle yet unmistakable glances, and the unspoken question lingering in the air. What is she doing here? Her heels clicked deliberately against the polished marble floor, masking the rapid thumping of her heart fueled by irritation and exhaustion. She had worked twice as hard, fought 3 times longer, and sacrificed more than most men in the room. Yet they looked at her as if she had wandered in by mistake. A man in a navy blue suit glanced briefly at her name tag before offering a tight-lipped smile that didn't reach his eyes. "The vendors are setting up downstairs," he said politely but dismissively. Jasmine's jaw tightened. She had often been mistaken for event staff, an assistant, or someone's plus one, but never the keynote speaker. Exhaling slowly, she adjusted her badge, ensuring the bold letters spelling DR. Jasmine Carter, Ph.D., Global Strategy Consultant, were prominently displayed. "I'm not a vendor," Jasmine replied, her voice steady, her smile unwavering. "But thanks for letting me know." The man blinked, clearly caught off guard. Before he could respond, a sharp, confident voice sliced through the tension. "Jasmine Carter?" Jasmine turned to see a woman in her mid-50s approaching with a commanding presence, dressed in a power suit. It was Helena Montgomery, the summit's chairwoman. Jasmine had spoken to her twice via email, but had never met her in person. "Yes," Jasmine replied, extending her hand. Helena shook it firmly, though her gaze was appraising, uncertain. "You're early," she stated rather than greeted. "I prefer to get a feel for the room before I speak," Jasmine explained. Helena nodded briefly. "Of course. Follow me." As Jasmine followed Helena, she felt eyes on her from every corner. Executives exchanging glances over morning coffee, others visibly startled at the sight of a confident black woman striding boldly among them. Helena led her into a private lounge where 2 men sat in leather chairs. One, broad-shouldered and in his 60s, barely looked up from his phone. The other, a younger executive with sharp features and an expensive watch, offered a thin smile. "This is DR. Carter," Helena announced. The older man finally looked up, his expression inscrutable. "Ah, the DEI speaker." Jasmine felt a flash of irritation. She wasn't here to discuss diversity, equity, or inclusion. She was here to discuss global business strategy, as she'd done for Fortune 500 companies, global leaders, and industry elites. Yet, she knew the assumptions. People saw her and expected a diversity lecture rather than a talk on power. Sensing the tension, Helena quickly clarified, "DR. Carter is our keynote speaker." Silence followed. The younger executive's smile wavered slightly, clearly surprised. "Well," the older man finally said, setting aside his phone, "that should be different. Different. Not valuable. Not essential. Just different." "You'll have a few minutes to settle in," Helena said, checking her watch. "I recommend going over your speech with our AV team." "I'm prepared," Jasmine assured smoothly. "I just need to know where I'll be waiting before I speak." Helena hesitated briefly before pointing toward a side door. "There's a green room behind the main stage." "Thank you." Jasmine turned, her back straight, her stride measured. She wouldn't show them the frustration simmering beneath her composed exterior. She had anticipated resistance and skepticism, but what she hadn't anticipated was what would unfold once she took the stage. Because when she picked up the mic, the entire room would have no choice but to see who she truly was. The stage lights burned brightly against Jasmine's skin, but the icy stares from the audience felt colder. A sea of executives and industry leaders filled the ballroom, their faces expressing curiosity, skepticism, and disbelief, a feeling she knew intimately. In the front row, Helena Whitmore sat cross-legged lips pressed tightly together. Beside her, the older executive who dismissed Jasmine earlier reclined with arms folded, waiting for her to falter, waiting to confirm his preconceived notions. Jasmine adjusted the microphone clipped to her blazer, took a steadying breath, and skimmed the podium's edge with her fingertips. Murmurs drifted through the room, someone clearing their throat, another shifting restlessly in their seat. She felt the gravity of the moment, but had carried heavier burdens. The screen behind her flashed the title of her keynote, Scaling Beyond Borders, the Global Future of Leadership. No diversity, no inclusion, pure business. She noticed a man near the back scrolling through his phone, intentionally disengaged. "Good morning," she began confidently. A few scattered responses followed, but the room remained stiff. "I'd like to start with a simple question. How many of you believe you're at the peak of your leadership abilities?" A few hesitant hands rose, mostly men. She allowed a brief silence. "Interesting," she said calmly. "Now, how many of you believe your companies are fully prepared for the next decade of global business shifts?" Fewer hands rose, uncertainty evident. She gave a small, knowing smile. Leadership is often mistaken for an endpoint. Yet, what if I told you that comfort is the most dangerous place a leader can reside? Heads lifted slightly. "The strategies that got you here," she continued, "won't keep you here." She paused, scanning the room. Expressions ranged from thoughtful to defensive, a few resistant, arms folded tightly. She clicked a remote. A graph appeared. "These emerging markets will surpass North America in technological investment by 2030, Jasmine explained. "This isn't about business as usual. It's about who gets left behind when leaders refuse to evolve." The silence shifted, discomfort rippling. Jasmine persisted, her voice steady. "Every leader in this room must decide whether to be proactive or reactive, to build the future or be left behind." Another slide appeared, featuring a prominent CEO. This man once dismissed a young woman's suggestion for digital integration. Today, that woman leads one of the most successful tech initiatives globally. She scanned the crowd. The moment you dismiss someone who doesn't fit your traditional idea of leadership, you reveal more about your own limitations than theirs. If you've never been truly challenged, you aren't leading, you're maintaining. The energy shifted. People leaned in, resistance crumbled. Jasmine had their attention. "Adaptation isn't optional, it's survival," she continued. "The strategies that brought you success won't keep you there. The future demands innovation, and leadership must evolve, or you'll inevitably fall behind." She clicked through slides highlighting successful leaders who embrace change. "I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to tell you what's coming. Whether you participate in that future or not, that's entirely your choice." As Jasmine stepped away, silence lingered, thick and electric. Then, slowly, applause began, quiet at first, growing louder, erupting into a standing ovation. Jasmine didn't look back. She didn't need to. She had already made her point.